Welcome back to the It's Bigger Than Me podcast. I'm your host, Molly Gomez. I am so excited to be talking about something that is going to be very new on the market, so needed for such a time as this. And my great friend, Tara Borghese, she has something so special that she has been birthing inside of her, and outside of this, her and her husband have an incredible marriage ministry where they've been able to touch so many couples. And, that is such a hot topic, I would say, Tara. Like, there are so many people that are needing guidance in their relationships. And I know that is like every fiber of your being, like, you want to help people when it comes to that. But I'm so excited to talk about this new thing that the Lord is birthing through you. And I would love for you to be able to just share a little bit about yourself, anything that you'd love to give a little bit of background on, and diving into why this is something to pay attention to, especially to have on your phone since we have so many different apps on there. Might as well have something that's going to be useful. But let's dive into a little bit of your story first before we talk about what's about to hit the market.
Yes, well, thank you for having me. It's such an honor and pleasure to be with you, Molly, and just to share the vision and the mission that God's put on our heart. And like you mentioned, my husband and I have been coaching marriages for the last 8 years, full time, which I'll tell you the story of how that actually came about. And even in that vision 8 years ago, God gave us the vision of the app. It just wasn't God's timing to release it. And so I kind of got ahead of him in 2023 and tried to do it myself. And we had some success, but it wasn't what we wanted. And it just wasn't God's timing. And so coming into 2025 of January of last year, we got the green light to start working on it. And so it has been a journey. And it has been so much fun and just seeing God working it out this past year and hoping for a release this April.
Beautiful. I mean, app, I have so many questions. Like, there's so much tech and there's so much that goes into an app. And I feel like so many of us take for granted what is on this thing. And we're like, oh, we'll just click here and we'll look this up here and we'll do these things. Tell us a little bit from your perspective of what it's like putting, and first of all, what is the app? What is 2R1? Let's talk about that first. And then, the technology behind it. Because again, we're so used to just click and we can go wherever we want on that app. And now you're building out something that people can do that. And I would love to hear kind of the back end insights that maybe people wouldn't realize when it comes to building something like this.
Yeah, what a great question. Tech is allowing us to get to places and get in front of people that we wouldn't have been able to in the past. And so, obviously, there's the good and the bad with technology, but we're going to focus on the good part of it and how can we use it to get in front of a broader audience and bring the tools because it's easier to get in front of where people's attention already is at than try to divert traffic and try to take them somewhere else that's uncomfortable. And so, one thing that we kind of noticed as we were coaching is that there's this generation called millennials. I think you fall into that one.
Yes.
I'm actually a Gen Xer, and my husband's a baby boomer. But our youngest son is a Gen Z. And so we kind of see the difference in our generations and how we were raised and how we raised our kids. And so, as my daughter got married, all three children are married. We have two millennials and one Gen Zer, and our last is getting ready to be married. And they're just you guys are in a different world than what we grew up in. And then we see the effects of not having solid marriage mentors around us, or even examples. When my husband and I counted up how many divorces that were just in our immediate family, like brothers and sisters, there's nine.
Wow.
Nine divorces. Now, the one thing that our generation, our parents' generation, they stayed together, but they weren't happily married. So maybe the divorce rate was a little bit lower in that, we call that the greatest generation, because they didn't believe there was a stigma to divorce. So they just stayed together, but they fought like cats and dogs. They weren't happy. We didn't have good models. And so my husband and I, man, did we were train wrecks when we came together. Like, we loved each other. We were believers and we thought, okay, we're going to make this work. Like, we were so in love that we thought we're never going to have the issues that our parents had. Well, we did. We did. And so, when you think about it and you say, like, okay, how much relationship training have you had? Certainly high schools should teach how to get along with people, but they don't. Colleges should be teaching how do relationship 101, but they don't.
Mm.
And so oftentimes when my husband and I do marriage conferences, we ask that very question to couples like, okay, with doing your current job, whatever you're doing now, like how much training did you have to have? And we get a myriad of answers. Like if you have a doctor or a lawyer, they might say I have 7 years, 8 years, and then 2 years of internship. Somebody maybe even if like customer service rep, which was my husband's first job when we got married, he had to be on the sales floor for 3 months in
Wow.
training before they ever let him answer a phone call on his own.
Mm.
And so then you say, well, how much relationship training did you have before you got married? And so we get responses like, wait, there's relationship training? Two, oh, we had 6 weeks. But did I say, did you have actual 6 weeks, like Monday through Friday, 40 hours a week? Or did you have 6 weeks with 1 hour you met with somebody? And they're like, actually, just 6 hours. And then we wonder why we're not very good at it.
Yes.
And so it's not people's fault that we all kind of stink at getting along with people who are different than us. So it's easy to get along with people that you have a lot in common with because it just feels easy. We all have those relationships that are just simple. But God has a sense of humor and he also wants us to grow. And so 90% of couples marry their opposite personality style. That's a big number.
That
And
is.
it's great until it isn't. Until those very things that actually attracted you are like they're now sandpaper. And that's where we come in with all of our training is to help you understand what those differences are.
I mean, what a powerful question. Like how much training have you had? And I remember my husband and I, we only knew each other for we were dating, engaged, and married in 11 months. But COVID was like that's when we got married. So I mean, we were just like, we're not waiting. Let's, we know we want to get married, all of that. But we did premarital counseling, and I was surprised of it was a long test. I can't remember what it was. And there was one section of like finances that we really had to come together on because we were just brought up differently. But outside of that, it said we were good. But oh
Mhm.
boy, I did not realize how much of an opposite my husband and I were until we got into it. And yes, you're absolutely right. Like there is not enough of like, let's make this a priority, and so many people are like, well, is it going to, what's the benefit? Is it going to make me money? Is it going to make you happier? You'll actually be happy with your spouse, or you can work through things that maybe you didn't have the tools beforehand. And so it's so powerful that you shared all that because I'm over here thinking like, yeah, like we've been married for going on 6 years, which isn't that long, but I'm like, we haven't had nearly enough that we focus just on ourselves. And my husband and I both being entrepreneurs, yes, we have poured thousands and thousands of hours into our career. So I love that you pose that question because there's a lot of entrepreneurs or people that are so professional focused that listen to this, but it gets you to question like, wait, everything hinges on relationships. So yeah, keep going, dive in a little bit more of what I know you have a funny story as far as like for you and your husband that I can't wait for you to share.
Yeah. Well, you bring up a very good point. Most people, and us included, and many others, we spend more money on our wedding day than we ever do on the health of our marriage,
Mm.
which will, till death do you part. So it's kind of like we got that a little bit backwards and upside down. I remember we spent like $2,500 on my daughter's wedding cake and it was gone. And nobody that came could remember. I remember because I paid for it. I remember what it looked like and I have pictures of it, but nobody else is going to remember that. And so it's really, where your treasure is, there your heart will be. And I think we've just bought into society and what society says what we should do. And so we kind of have to rethink that a little bit. And your marriage, your relationship, if you kind of look at as we're all believers, if your audience are Christians, we know that we are made from relationship with God the Father, God the Son, and the Holy Spirit said it's a good idea. Let us create man in our image. And so they did for fellowship. And it says that God walked with Adam in the cool of the evening, and he brought him a helper suitable to him. And so it's all about relationships. And it reminds me of a Harvard study that they did, and they actually did this study. It took 85 years,
Wow.
over 85 years, this study. So people died during this study, and you can look this study up. And they interviewed, I don't know how many people, and they were trying to get what makes you happy, like what's the biggest thing that's contributed to your happiness, and they said the health of our relationships. The health of our relationships was the number one thing. It's not going to be where you worked, how big your house was, even though, we put those things as important, but it's who you do life with, the healthy relationships that you build, that someday when we're all on our deathbed, that's the only thing that's going to matter. And it's really the only thing that will live eternal is our love for God and our love for each other. So it makes sense that we invest in that.
Absolutely. It everything hinges on relationships. I share with my clients and just people around. It's like if you have toxic ones, it's going to leak toxicity into every other area of your life. If you have
Yeah.
incredible ones, it is going to be that morale boost. It's going to be that support system, the cheerleader, whatever it is that you need. And not to say they're always going to be, great all the time, but it's so important. So important. And the older I get, the more I'm like, I want more time to pour into the relationships that I have or to have conversations that are really meaningful rather than I don't have time for this. Let me just go to the next thing that, like you said, on our deathbed, it doesn't even matter. So what's the key thing here? Like, and I would love to pair the app in with this because it's something where relationships are of most importance to most people. Because I know loneliness is excuse me, a huge epidemic right now.
Hmm.
Like this is imperative that people lean in and they're not like, yeah, I've heard this before. Like really kind of lay it on, like give it to us straight. Like what do we really need to pay attention to so we can actually like be in that place of this is possible for me. I can get the support or the resources I may need in order to figure out like what's next in my relationships.
Yeah, that's a great question. And so I'm going to go back a little bit into how we got started in this. So my husband and I, all I knew when we got married was that I wanted to be a full-time stay-at-home mom and homeschool all my kids. That's all I wanted to do. So we came into agreement that, hey, he was going to pursue a corporate, job at the time. Of course, this was 33 years ago. So we've been married 33 and a half years now. And I was going to stay home and raise our children. Well, on that journey, so 25 years in our mix, when we were celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary, now we did not have, I wouldn't say the first 25 years were all, rainbows and unicorns because, like I mentioned earlier, we had no relationship training. And you guys have probably heard like you bring baggage into your marriage.
Mhm.
Well, I'm an overachiever, so I brought a five-piece matching set and all kinds of things. I had all my dad's dysfunction of all of his dysfunctional patterns in marriage and just, a lot of anger towards men and past hurt relationships. And so, even though I was a believer, so I think it encourages us that God's doing a work in each of us and he's still working till the day we die. Like it's not finished. He's still revealing things to us and the things that he wants us to become free of. Well, at year 10, which is one of the most vulnerable times for divorce, and I have my own theory on this from divorce lawyers have said year 10, but kind of between 8 and 11 is really the time frame you're most susceptible to divorce. The reason is because you're probably both focused, you're knee deep in your careers, you're going separate directions, you got children. And so if anybody has children, like you've got to pick this kid up. They have a basketball game. This one has soccer on Sunday. This one's got volleyball. You're just running in different directions. And so you feel like, well, I could just put my marriage on pause
Mm.
and I'll come back to it when things are less busy. Well, there actually is no pause button. It's either you're moving forward or you're going back. And Satan knows this. We have an enemy, and it's not our spouse. And so, he's very crafty in bringing somebody in who could tickle our ears. And so that's kind of what happened to us. My husband was traveling all the time. Things were hectic at home. He would travel literally sometimes 4 weeks out of 4 weeks, 4 weeks out of the month
Wow.
for business. And so we weren't seeing each other. And then in comes somebody who says, man, I could listen to you all day long. You're fascinating. You're so interesting. You're so funny. You're so this. And my husband and I are growing in separate directions. And so I ended up, I didn't even know this was a thing, but emotional affair. Like I started telling this other person in my life all of my things that I should have been telling my husband. But because of his dysfunctional patterns, he didn't want to talk about anything, very deep because for him it was like his parents fought all the time. So he felt if we don't have conflict, then we'll have peace.
Mm.
Well, listen, the absence of conflict does not equal the presence of peace. Knowing how to deal with conflict is the key. And we did not know. And so that was kind of a fork in the road for us. He ran out of the house, almost, said it's over, we're done. This is too difficult. And then God stopped him on his way back to the house and said, "Hey, are you going to fight for your wife and the family that I gave you?" And secondly, he said, "You need to take responsibility for your role in this marriage." And so my husband came back a totally different person, and he invited me. He said, "Tara, will you join me? Will you fight with me for our marriage?" And I said, "Yes." And so we did, and we've been on that journey all that time for 28 years now. And so my husband says so he comes home and asks me to fight. And then, but really, there was nothing else out there on the market. It was kind of like love more, honor more, respect more. And I'm like, yeah, but could somebody tell me how to do this thing? I don't
Mm.
understand how to do this because we've lost respect. We kind of hated each other at that point. Like we were fighting all the time, so we didn't like each other. And so I'm like, but how do I do this? And so when we were celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary, we said to God, okay, like you got us out of the struggle. We're on solid ground. I wouldn't say we were thriving, but we had kind of settled. And and so we said, God, you've given us all the desires of our heart. And so the next 25 years of our life, we want to help fulfill what's the desire of your heart.
Mm.
And clearly, both of us heard not an audible voice, but that still small voice. He said, I want you to help marriages. Now, I was like, wait, what? Who? Me? Are you sure? Like there's somebody behind me you're talking to. And my husband said, no, I think that's what God wants us to do. So I'm a negotiator. And I negotiated with God and I said, all right, I'll do whatever you ask me to do because I love God and I'll step out in faith. But I'm like, you've got to give me the missing key. I don't know what it is. I don't even know what I'm asking you for. But if you provide that missing key or that number to a combination lock, like if you have two numbers, even if you have to have three, it doesn't matter if you only have two, it's not unlocking. And literally, God is so faithful. And within a week, He introduced us to personalities. And I had never heard of it. Being a stay-at-home mom, I'd never heard about. Now my husband had at his corporate job, they had used personalities to build better teams, be more effective, be more productive. And so it was all new to me. And that when we found it, we knew that's the thing. And it brought lasting change for us because without a good understanding, you're going to have a lot of bad misunderstandings. And so that was really our entire curriculum. And then as far as like for the app was really born out of where I was saying we have failed as a generation, our generation, the baby boomers. Like we have not provided solid models who went all in and even had the tools to show our kids here's God's intention in marriage.
Mm.
So I feel like whatever one generation sacrifices, the next generation has to fight to recover. And it's not fair for us to leave them in this battle alone.
Mm.
We are the elders, and we need to provide and fight for them and with them to renew what the covenant of marriage is. Because when we do it God's way, it's beautiful, it works, you're fulfilling your roles, there's a godly order to marriage. And when you're in it, everything seems so much better. And and so that's really where the app is like our generation went to conferences, like these mountaintop experiences. We went to all these marriage conferences. Our church would have me once a year, and we thought, "Oh, we're good." We weren't good. But this next generation, they don't want the same stale, boring marriage conferences telling them you need to love more, respect more, trust more. And those are godly principles, but we need the practical how-tos, and that's
Yes.
what's in the app.
Beautiful. I love that. I'm like, I'm still here for a good conference and come together. But to your
Yes.
point, if it's only once a year, if it's kind of the same old same, it's just going to keep producing the same thing. And so the how to's, that's what people want. Okay, I hear you. How to, because chances are there may not be an example near to them that speaks to them. But like if you give me the how to's and I go and try this, what can happen? What will be the next step, especially if it's a priority to you? Just like we've talked about, if you're going to invest in your professional career, or invest in your health, or invest in anything, it is a priority. So investing your time in a how to and applying it is so key. Because one of the things, like you're kind of mentioning with these retreats, it's amazing to be in person and you're on the high from the retreat of like, this is amazing, and then like you have the crash right after of like, oh, and now we're back to the same. So I love that you found that pocket. And so kind of explain a little bit when it comes to how to's, like what can people expect when this app hits the market, which obviously, as this is airing, it's very, very close to hitting the market, which is going to be so exciting to literally be on people's phones when they have the opportunity to download it. What does that look like? Like kind of give us a little inside scoop if you can.
Yeah. Well, like I said, personalities are pivotal. So we have what's called the GOAT method. So our GOAT method, we all know GOAT as the greatest of all time. That's the acronym. And so ours is God's word, the opportunity to understand, that's personalities. Like, and you mentioned, apply it, and then you're going to get T, the transformation. So
Mm.
that's kind of the framework of everything we do. So the first thing you do is you take your personality assessment and you get a reading, and then you start to get personalized information back so that you now know how you're wired. And then your spouse takes it. So your apps are connected and you have a little love meter. So you get to check in every single day. You get to do date nights, conversation starters. There's like 7 different categories for conversation starters. Because, when I look back, we were married 33 years. I look back, I am not the same person my husband married 33 years ago,
Mm.
and neither is he. And you're probably not either. Like we're always continually growing. And so having great conversation starters keeps everything fresh and on the forefront. And then of course we have tons of date night ideas that are kind of done for you. Really the idea is that you become the hero in your marriage. We're not the hero, we're the facilitator.
Mm.
And so it's your special place to stay connected and stay on the forefront. Now going back to the personality assessments, having that personalized information. So there's a little bit of an AI component, but it's very restrictive. So it's very closed. So it's not bringing in any weird stuff. It's Bible based. Now, oddly enough, many apps who say that they're Christian, and the people who own them are Christians, they have no reference to God. Now, maybe, I think there was a thing of being so covert, right? That people don't even find God because you're trying to reach the world.
Yes.
And, if that's what God's called them to, then, bless them. That's fine. But that's not our calling because we know that Gen Z is like, we want traditional values. They're even going back to like orthodoxy, Catholicism,
Yes.
because we believe in the sanctity of life. We believe in the covenant of marriage. We believe in having lots of children, going back to the original mandate that God intended. And so they're asking for this. They want biblically based information. And so we're bringing in experts from different areas and all the areas that you need in your marriage because, yeah, having date nights and having conversation starters, I mean, those are super fun and impactful. So we would say, like, you're creating memories that you'll share for a lifetime. But when you're looking at the things that affect your marriage, like finances, parenting, like the even on the opposite side of that, addiction, like
Mm.
pornography, and so there's just a lot that comes in, blended families. So we're bringing in all of the best experts too. So this is not just you're not hearing just our voice, and we don't want to be in a can. We want to bring all of the best resources that we know that are out there that have been tested and vetted and tried and true to be effective to give everyone access to that in their pocket. And so that's kind of what you can expect from the app, which is it's like a marriage mentor in your pocket.
Ugh, I love it. I love it. And it's when you need it. It's like having it on the
Mhm.
go, on demand. Like you don't have to sit there and wait 3 months until the retreat, or when somebody has an opening, it's like you have something there that's curated for you. And I love how intently you listened. It's like we're listening, and you made a choice of, we kind of made a mess and we don't want to just leave you to clean it up. And I'm telling you, Tara, that is so rare for people to be like, because normally they're like, eh. But I've never known you or your husband to be like, we'll just leave it, because that's not what kingdom people do. We're not just like, we'll just leave somebody else to clean that up. You saw a problem, a big need. You were listening to what people are looking for, and you went and created it. And it's no small feat. I know so many people who've put apps together, and again, we just go on our phone and we're like, boop, 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 this is what we need. But there's so much that goes behind it. But
Yeah.
knowing that this is an incredible kingdom tool to help your relationships, your marriage, and really be able to ask questions, understand personalities from a biblical lens, because you can go and ask Google, but you don't know what kind of mixture you're going to get. Or you could go ask ChatGPT or whatever, but there's always mixture. So we need discernment. And of course, use discernment on everything. But I'm telling anybody that's listening, like, when you download this app, as soon as it becomes available, you are going to find that you're going to uncover things, you're going to discover things, you're going to open up conversations, which I love that you have conversation starters. I'm that person at Christmas time for every family holiday. I'm like, hey, guess what I brought? And it's a box of like those like conversations. They're like, oh, but every time everybody's like, I'm so glad we did that. I didn't know that about this person.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. It's like, I don't want to just keep doing the same old same. I actually want to get to know you. I want to go deeper. Like, life gets so busy and we can never stop learning. And like you said, I mean, back when you and your husband got married to today, decades in between, so much has changed. So we need to just grow and evolve and really be able to pursue and have that pursuit for our person, because that's our person at the end of the day. It's who God brought to us. So as we're kind of wrapping things up, I'd love for you to share any final thoughts, and then of course how people can connect with you. We'll put everything in the show notes. So as soon as the app becomes available, you'll be able to have it. April 2026 should be on. So if you're listening after that, I'm sure everything should be out there. But anything you'd love to leave us with today?
Yes. Yeah, well, a vision, if you can picture this kind of in your head, is a fountain. If you've ever seen a fountain, I'm sure everybody's seen a fountain. They're very popular outside in California at malls, which I know you know that.
Yes.
And so it's like that's the picture that God has. Like,
Mm.
God pours into us, and then we pour into each other, and then out of that flows down to our children, our extended family, our workforce, out into our community. And it's a natural flow, and it shouldn't be difficult. So we have to put first things first. And so, that's really the key into strengthening our marriages, but keeping it fun and exciting. And so with the app, it's really relationship wellness, right?
Mm.
Because we're two human beings, and a lot of times we go into marriage and we don't actually have marriage problems. We just have problems that we bring in. And the sacred space that God's created, which is the covenant between man and female, is that we get to help with God, partner with God to help heal the wounds, heal the things in our spouse, but oftentimes we just poke the hole even bigger. So that's the picture I want people to see, that it's very healing. It doesn't have to be a source of pain.
Beautiful. I love that. Well, Tara, you're incredible. Cannot wait to see everything to come to fruition, the lives being impacted. And thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing that with us today.
Yes, thanks for having me.
You go. Remember that your story is so much bigger than you. If this episode encouraged you, maybe challenged you, or even had you feeling that you're not alone in this process that we call life, share this with a friend who needs to hear this message today. You can go ahead and connect with the guest that we had on today's show, or even myself. You'll find all those links to connect in the show notes below. And just know, God is using even your voice to be mentorship to somebody else. Stay tuned for the next episode. We'll see you next time.